Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Unincorporated Alameda County Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Rick Young. I'm the traffic engineer for Alameda County, and I am your host for tonight's meeting. Before we begin, let me take care of a few reminder items. We are conducting today's meeting remotely by teleconference. Teleconferencing guidelines were provided with the meeting agenda. If you experience any technical issue, you may call our help desk at 510-670-5755. The general public will have an opportunity to provide comments when I open public comments for each item on the agenda. And if you would like to speak when I open public comment, please raise your virtual hand. If you're joining us by phone, you may raise your hand by dial *9. And lastly, let me remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. Let me go over the agenda for this evening. We will begin with calling the meeting to order and conducting a roll call. Next is our public comment sections to allow the public to provide comment on topics that are not on the agenda. We'll then move on to our consent items for the evening, followed with our 3 presentations tonight. And our last topic is future BPAC agenda item. And after that, the meeting will be adjourned. Okay, so let's get started. For the record, it is Thursday, March 24th. The time is 6:02, and this meeting is called to order. Moving on to roll call. Halima, let me turn this over to you.
Parvin Ahmadi, David Berman.
Here, Parveen Ahmadi here.
And David Berman is present. Thank you.
Sharon Bohoman. Shanita Chu. Shanita Chu. Bruce Doogie.
Shanita's here. I just joined as a panelist.
Yeah, Bruce is here.
Rachel Factor. Daniel Leary.
Here.
Carmen Lopez. Aaron Salas. Cindy Torres. Matt Wayne. Matt Wayne. Nikki Winty. Nikki Winty.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael Williams.
Here.
Okay.
So it looks like we have a quorum for this evening. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to speak on topics not covered in tonight's agenda, please raise your virtual hand to request to speak. If you're joining by phone, please dial *9. Before providing your comments, please state your name and the city from where you're calling. And let me go to check and see if there's anyone who'd like to speak. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Strasberg, and I am staff with Supervisor Nate Miley's office. I just wanted to let you guys know that on Monday, I sent everybody a survey, and Supervisor Miley is interested in your feedback on the Unincorporated Area Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. We're looking for feedback related to meeting frequency, agenda items, improvements, or just any of your overall comments. If you guys could please check your emails and complete the survey by April 18th, that would be great. And if you have any questions or need help accessing the survey, please feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is ashley.strasberg@acgov.org. You can also find it on the District 4 website. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, that is all the public comments we have. So I will close public comment for that item. Okay, moving on to our consent item. We have one consent item. It is for approving the action minutes for the September 23rd, 2021 BPAC meeting. Like to call on the committee members, see if anyone has any questions or comments. And if you do, please raise your virtual hand. I see Dan's hand is raised. Go ahead, Dan.
I move for approval of the minutes.
Okay, Bruce, you have your hand is also raised. Bruce, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make the comment that, the only items that we've ever consented on have been the agenda or the meeting minutes, sorry. So I find a little disappointment in that we're not having more say. But I do second the approval of the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. See, any other committee members have any questions or comments? Okay, I see none. Let me open this item up for public comments. Anyone from the public want to speak on this item? Please raise your virtual hand. Okay, I don't see any. Halima, please conduct a vote for the motion to approve the action minute.
Parvin Ahmadi, Parvin Ahmadi,
Yes.
David Berman,
I'm going to abstain. I think this was one I wasn't here for.
Sharon Bohoman,
It's up to you. Mhm.
Shanita Chu,
Approved.
Bruce Doogie,
Yes.
Rachel Factor, Daniel Leary,
Aye.
Carmen Lopez, Aaron Salas, Cindy Torres,
Yes.
Matt Wayne, we have 6 voting yes. We have a quorum.
We have 6 yes vote, 1 abstain. Is that what we have?
Yes.
Did we not call on somebody? I thought we have 8 people, right?
Yeah, I wasn't called on. This is Nikki Wente.
Yeah. I
I
think I
was
thought
there
it
in
would be the same.
September, so I vote yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Same here.
All right, Michael. Okay, so with that, the action minute is approved. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next on the agenda is our presentation. We have 3 presentations tonight. The first is about the San Lorenzo Creekway project. And very happy that to have Michael Williams here tonight to tell us all about this wonderful project. Michael, I'll let you share your screen and I'll let you get started with the presentation.
Okay, I can't pull up a separate presentation, so can you throw yours up on the screen and then I'll walk through it?
Yeah, that's fine. Give me 1 minute here.
I have a second screen, but I've been moving stuff back to the office recently. And now, of course, stuff that's been configured for 2 years and working fine does not work the same way. So I'm kind of hamstrung right now.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Excuse me, Rick, we have one person with their hand raised. I want to see if their comment is related to the last item. It's,
Okay. Hang on, let me try to get to my windows here. Just a minute. Okay, Roy, I see your hand raised. I'm assuming you have a comment you want to make about the action minute.
Actually, I had a comment I wanted to make about the actual agenda, Rick. And I thought actually there was a point where you actually reviewed the agenda and I was waiting for that. And then I noticed there wasn't that on the agenda this time. So if I had a comment about the overall agenda, where would I make that?
Well, the agenda was, we went over that in the beginning. If you have a comment about that, you could provide comment during the public comment section.
Oh, okay. Could I do that now quickly?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So my comment on the agenda is I wanted to look at the agenda and get maybe input from the actual BPAC members as to whether they feel the agenda really puts them in a position of being an advisory committee, because the A and BPAC is advisory, versus the agenda items simply being informational. And it connects a little bit with Bruce's point that there's never any kind of vote on the end of any agenda item as to whether the BPAC members approve or not of that item as presented. But if I look at the agenda today, the first item on the San Lorenzo Creek Trail, that kind of has a joint jurisdiction, although it seems to be led by HARD. So I'm wondering what kind of feedback can the BPAC, who are an advisory committee to public county works, give to HARD? Not quite sure on that one. It would seem to be, mainly informational. The second item, Crow Canyon, that actually is almost complete. Yeah, construction is almost done and you have a little bit more striping to do. So that would seem to be just an informational item because there's no opportunity for the BPAC members to act in any advisory committee in any advisory role for a project that's actually 90% complete. And then the last item on funding, I'm assuming, is an update. It's also informational. So, I understand there's value in informational items and sharing those, but the trend in the agendas at these meetings very much seems to be they're all informational items. And so I'm wondering if anybody else, any of the actual BPAC members would have any comments around their view of the agenda and whether they feel it's really allowing them to act in any kind of advisory role here. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Let me see here. So Michael, I'm going to share the PDF that you sent me.
Okay.
And then you can just let me know when to advance to the next page. Okay.
Okay, that'd be great.
Can
Thank
you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
All right.
So that's perfect. Thank you for doing the extra duty. Okay, so to the BPAC, thank you for just being available to hear this tonight. I'm glad to have it on the agenda. And it's a carryover from December. We tried to do it and there was a lack of quorum and my computer went down. So this is the right time to catch us on this right now. And unlike some of the, some of Roy's comments or, even to Bruce, I am seeking input on this. So if tonight's meeting isn't the best place to do it, if it's not set up to take in input, I'll make sure I leave my email address at the end, and you can send comments, you can make suggestions. I'm happy to take all of as much as I can offline, just to make sure we're getting input from the wide range of the people that are on the BPAC, as far as input into the project. So I just want to let that be stated. And so as we're going through, yes, it's information because a lot of it is existing. It relies on an existing footprint of a pathway that's already like 90%, in place. But, where we have crossings and where we have other things, we will be looking for commentary or input on that. So let's go ahead and get started. And also, I think Roy just brought this up. So this is a joint project between Alameda County Public Works Agency, the Alameda County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, Hayward Area Recreation and Park District, and Alameda County Public Health Department. They're involved in it as well. When we apply to ATP for the Active Transportation Program funds, it's those 4 agencies, and public health is a part of it because there is a safe routes to school and safe routes to transit component that's a part of this. So just keep that in mind as we're going through as well. Okay, you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is an overview of the San Lorenzo Creekway. There's a point in time in the past where it was called the San Lorenzo Creek Trail. We changed the name to Creekway for some reasons that had to do with people, especially Caltrans and ATP funders, thinking it was just a recreational trail. And so we weren't given serious consideration for the ATP program and in our first application, first iteration of our application. So this will be the 3rd time that we're applying to this, and we think the 3rd time will be the charm. And so this is, as an overview, if you're not familiar with it already, the San Lorenzo Creekway is basically taking the channelized portion of San Lorenzo Creek, let's say from downtown Hayward at Lincoln Landing, right at Foothill, where it becomes the 20-foot deep, 20-foot wide or wider channel that runs out all the way out to the water's edge, runs out to the Bay Trail. Once it gets closer to the water, it stops being a channel and becomes an engineered V section, but more natural. But let's just say that the 5 or 6 miles of concrete channel, what most people don't know is the flood control district has a service road that varies in width, but it's at a minimum, it's 12 feet wide, goes up to 16 feet, maybe 20 in some cases, that runs alongside the channel, sometimes on both sides of the channel, sometimes just on one side, but it runs the length of the channel. It's so that they can get in there, do emergency operations, they can remove tree limbs and debris, they can do other work that needs to occur a few times a year in the channel in emergencies, as they occur. So the plan is, the idea and thought is to open up that channel, to open up that road. It's somewhat paved already, but to repave it, put a finished paved surface on it and open it up as a Class 1 ped and bike facility for all users, all abilities, all programs, including safe routes to transit and safe routes to school. And we would do that by putting at a minimum 2 things, a safety fence railing on the inside of the channel, so that we would prevent people from falling over accidentally into the channel, and also privacy fencing in addition to whatever exists for homeowners and residents, but privacy fencing to protect those existing houses and homes that are on the creekway as well. So just, fencing, railing, and opening it up as a ped and bike facility. And all in all, including from the Bay Trail into, beyond downtown Hayward is about 7.5 miles. And we're doing it in one shot too. This is not build, 1 mile or 1.5 miles this year, and then 2 years from now, come back and do another section. We plan, the goal is to do all 7 miles as one project and one point in time. So this layout here goes a little bit further to the east. There's actually a segment that's called the Upper San Lorenzo Creekway that kind of starts at A Street. Yes, right where Rick's cursor is. That's actually a separate project that we are applying to some other funding for, not a part of this main active transportation ATP program. But if we can get this active transportation funding, and we can get the Upper Creekway funding, eastern segment, we literally can connect the Bay Trail to the Ridge Trail through Don Castro Park and the East Bay Regional Park System. We can connect East Bay Regional Parks. They have the Hayward Shoreline Park. We can connect them to their own parks in their own system, in addition to connecting parks that we have, that HART has up and down the corridor. So that's basically the concept. There are crossings at different locations. Mission, obviously, Grove Way, there's probably half a dozen. And there are 2 rail crossings that the original plan in the last 2 iterations, we had planned to go under. The one rail crossing right by San Lorenzo High and the one that's further west. We had hoped to go under them, but that's not the case now. But I'll come back to that point in a minute. So if we can go on to the next slide, that's an overview. These are just pictures. This is the picture on the right is the channeled portion. So like I said, of the 7 miles, probably 5.5 are this configuration. And you see how there's a road bed on one side, not the other. And again, in some cases, it's on both sides. We won't use it on both sides. We'll only use it mostly one side at a time. And then as you get out closer to the Bay Trail, you can see it's more naturalized. Go to the next slide, please. This is just a representative sample of the stakeholders committee, steering committee that was put together. This goes back about 2 years in 2020, just before the pandemic hit, or actually right after the pandemic had started. And so we did all this under leadership from HARD, leadership from Alameda County Public Works, and this had been going on before. Hank Ackerman has applied for this, in the first round. And so just the stakeholders on the right, that's just a representation of people and more the agencies and other groups that have been helping out. Lots of help from, Cherryland Community Association, Alameda County, it just has people throughout it, the school district, Alameda County, well, I already mentioned them, Downtown Streets team. And this list is only growing. We've cemented everyone and all the groups that are on here, and this list is growing. On some level, I'd like to really add the BPAC to that list as well. If we get, input, this is where the BPAC could serve as individual members, but as one group could, certainly provide input at any point on this through the this committee. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. It's just a bunch of, this is outreach that we did back in 2020 and continuing. We're doing some more now. The application is due in June. We're doing some more outreach, but the main thing, we're not going to redo all of the outreach that we did before, because we have that in a survey and we've got it encapsulated in other and documented in other data. But we're doing specific outreach to, like, Reach Ashland as a community center was not able to provide a lot of input and have youth input, and Caltrans is looking for that. They're looking for young people in the community to learn about leadership and to take leadership. And so we want to get input from Reach specifically. They were very hard hit during the pandemic, as many of you know. A lot of this, I'm preaching to the choir, I understand. I'm just trying to lay down the foundation for everyone that doesn't know all the other details. So we're going to go back to Reach for sure and do some a meeting with them And then we're going to do a public meeting at some point that's just community-wide, open up probably in May. And then we will be representing this to the MACs, all the MACs, and My Eden Voice, we're going to be adding to them, adding them to the list as well. Okay, so we can go to the next one. Project website is on the HARDS website. And again, I can make that available. You probably don't want to copy it now, but if you go to our website and put in San Lorenzo Creekway, look it up, it's there. We can go on to the next one, please. It's just stuff, information about when we did outreach and how much work we got. We got a lot of responses. We had some youth ambassadors from the community that came and helped and did a lot of stuff, and we really got spikes. Again, when people, when young people get out and do things, they get responses from other people that, are like them and others. And so we got spikes there. We can go on to the next one. A bunch of stuff that, all this stuff is available. So I don't want to go through it tonight, but I'm just saying there's demographics and, who responded to the survey. We had a survey, it was 938 responses over like a 3-month period, 4 months, something like that. So that's a pretty good representation of, points of view, ideas, thoughts. We can go on, Rick, to the next one. And there's more detail in all this, but here's the, the preliminary survey results basically said 80% of the people of 938 polled said, yeah, go for it, do it. That's the overwhelming view that we have. Then there's about 10% that said, we like the idea, but how are you going to do this, this, and this? How do you address? And all the questions really were about public safety, which we get and we're prepared to address. So we're not backing down from public safety at all. And then there's 10% people that don't want it no matter what. And then that's just 10% of people that feel that way about lots of things. There might be 10% people that don't like pizza or something. I don't know. So anyway, we can keep going, Rick. Yeah, comments, we responded to comments. We had an extensive, master plan and public comment period. People, these are some of the things. So there's, goals and, lots of planting, requests for planting, but we understand the county does not want to do and cannot do planting because there are lots of restrictions about planting. So that's one of the issues that, people are somewhat going to just have to live with because we are governed by the what the Army Corps of Engineers has built, and the flood control district is responsible for maintaining as is. So, but just more comments, and we responded to them in public documents. Okay, Rick, thank you. Yeah, that's more. We can skip to the next one. Just, this is kind of stuff. I hate to say stuff, but these are things we address. Benefit. There's tons of public benefit. To benefit communities in need. That's part of it. That's what Caltrans is. This money is set aside for communities of concern, disadvantaged communities, communities that haven't had equitable access to parks, to transportation, to safe places to be in the outdoors. And so that's what part of the active transportation monies do, along with other grant funds, is to help that. We want to increase walking and biking, make it safe. That's a very dangerous place. If people walk or bike and you're on Llewellyn or you're on Mission, it's being fixed now, but there just aren't really good streets over there to walk around on or bike on safely. And most of you guys know that. So this helps to address that by getting people off of dangerous streets where their high injuries have occurred. A bunch of other stuff, public health, blah, blah, community identity. This is all stuff. We can go on, Rick. Again, you have the slide, so I'm not going to read all the slide, just throwing it out there. Stuff we heard from the community, public safety, bike safety, public art, people do want public art, and connections. What does it connect to? What do we get to? And how can, and then people are concerned about ecology and about the environment, what this does. People want to learn. It's a great opportunity. There's ducks and fish and salmon that can be in the creek. So, it's not just sewer water or something that's run out there. It's actually fresh water from the hills. So the next one. That's just a rendering. We can go on to the next one. Probably overdone, but anyway. There's another one, just example of what things can look like when amenities are in place. You can keep going, Rick, please. This is good. This is kind of like sections, like I said, typically it's tends to not be any narrower than 12 feet, which is actually a nice roadway width to have. And then it expands to sometimes 16 and 20 feet, depending on where the section is. And it just gives you, that expanded, just gives you safe places for people to walk, 2 lanes to bike in either direction. And then we will have some seating areas. It's not going to be lined with seating up and down, and we're not doing lights throughout the whole thing. But pretty much where you have entrances and exits, we're looking to do some of these seating areas and maybe tie into some existing lights so that the entrances and exits have lights. But I'll get more detail later. Next one, please. This is just, this is a bad section to show because this is part of the Upper Creek Way at A Street. So, but it was just an opportunity site. And so where we do have them, and this was one, we're planting opportunities. Okay, we can go to the next one. Just connections, just what things, it's a list of things. And some of this is what we submit as part of our application. Just says what stores, libraries, this, different things. Okay. Yeah, so this is where things like this is where the BPAC can weigh in. Again, looking at details where we have crossings, how we might do them. This is Washington Avenue proposed. So you can go on to the next one because you guys all have this, so you can look at it in detail. And if you have questions or other proposals or ideas about it, feel free to just shoot me an email and we will look at those. We've studied this stuff pretty lengthily, or in detail, but we're always open to having input, especially from the BPAC and people that are active users and writers and, participants in a lot in this area. Washington Avenue crossing. On to the next one. Amenity zones. We'll keep going, please. It's just more of that. And it's just the same kind of view, just tells you, where we're looking to get, railing, privacy fencing. There's a couple of places we're going to have to put new bridges across to get from one side to the other because there's no way to, the road is not continuous. So there's a few places where that occurs, a couple of places where that occurs. And you can go on to the next one, please, Rick. I'm not looking at the time, so hopefully this is not taking too long or boring anyone to tears. Strategy, we're addressing trail development, maintenance and safety, education, ecological restoration, social services needs, and then we have, these are all, here's HARD. The partners are HARD, City of Hayward, Alameda County Flood Control District, school districts, social service providers, developers, HOAs, local community groups and advocacy groups. Okay, so this is not just HARD's idea to go do something and we're just trying to, shoehorn it into other people's lives. Next one, please. Or comments. Sorry, we can skip through that. Okay, so this is important, and this is where I am soliciting input and comments. Again, if tonight's not the best time or location to do it, just that's fine. Just email me afterwards, please, and on this. But this is, we had to make a couple of changes from the last 2 iterations, the last 2 applications to this one. And so on this third one of the things that we're doing that we think we lost some points for was in the previous iteration, because we kind of tried to keep it linear. We tried to say, hey, we're going east to west or west to east. And there's nothing else in the area that does this. If you know the area, there is nothing else that runs east to west that can do what this does until you get down to Fremont on the Alameda Creek Trail. So even up in Oakland, I don't know where else, Oakland doesn't even have anything that goes east to west. I know there's the San Leandro Creek Trail, but it won't function in the same way that this will. And it's not going to do quite the same thing the same way we will. But so what we said before to just try and keep it going in one direction, east to west, was we told the reviewers, we told the application that, oh, we're in X proximity to BART. I don't know what it is, the two BARTs, Bayfair BART and downtown Hayward BART. Let's just say it's a half mile or a mile, whatever they are. I think it's a mile. And we said, oh, we're a mile from each of these, and that's great. And Hayward, Bayfair, great. And then we just talked about other things. I think we lost points there because Caltrans and the Active Transportation Program wants us to not only just say that we are, within a mile proximity of BARTs, which is great, but I think it's better if we show them that we're connecting people to BART, to those two BARTs in particular. So I talked to Rick, and we've talked to other transportation providers and to BART about this. And so our plan is at, say, going to the south at Western, to utilize the existing Class 3 facility that is already in place. We can restripe, refresh, add new signs. If there's some sidewalk improvements or something needed, we can do that too, but we're trying not to reinvent the wheel and create a whole new trail. But the point is that we can reinforce that from the trail, you can take a very nice Class 3 facility down to Hayward BART in a mile. And conversely, going the other direction at Ashland Avenue, we go Ashland to, I forgot the name of the street, Rick.
East 14th.
No, well, it should be Elgin.
Oh yeah, Elgin.
Oh, yeah, Ashland to Elgin. So to get to Bayfair BART, and so the same thing. It's there's existing Class 3 facilities that kind of connect you to Bayfair, and all we're going to do is strengthen those. But we're going to show this on the map, so it's not only are we within a proximity of the two BARTs, but we're going to have routes that connect you from the Creekway to the BARTs, and from the BARTs back to the Creekway. So that's one kind of new wrinkle. It's not a, it's not an innovative thing per se, but we think it's important to show that we're making direct connections to BART, even if it's Class 3 and not Class 1. That's fine. We're going to do that. The other thing that this is, I'm pointing with my hands, and you guys can't see that. That this is showing where Rick's cursor is now in the middle is we are going to have to. We made a decision to avoid the railroad. We're not going to be able to go under the railroad right by San Lorenzo High, and we're not going to be able to go under the railroad when it's out by, it's past Washington, whatever the last crossing is to the west. So for those two locations, we hate to do it, but it doesn't make sense. And you guys can, beg to differ, but it doesn't seem to make sense. The railroads are not going to change at all. That's UP. If anyone knows them, they're not going to change. There's nothing. I think in terms of federal lobby, they are probably on a par, if they don't surpass, the gun lobby, NRA. UP is the railroad lobby in Washington is that strong. And I'm not even joking about that. That's not a euphemism for anything else. That's how powerful they are. The country was built on railroads to some degree, good or bad, and they've retained that right with the federal government. And so we're not going to spend any more time trying to, work around them or ask them, can we go under them? Can we go over them? Which creates more problems. So we're going to have to come off the Creekway, this nice facility. We're going to have to go on to surface streets. The good news is kind of where Rick's cursor is now on Llewellyn. The county's already done a lot of work there, and a lot of improvements have been made on Llewellyn. So it's not the end of the world to have to come off and go there. We think it keeps it fairly continuous, and we might make some safety, improve the existing at-grade crossing right by the school as needed. It's fairly new, but it might need something else there, and we can do that. But so we have to come off there. And then to the west, this is the more problematic of the two. To the west, we can't go under the railroad there, whatever that street is. I think it's Washington or somewhere down by Railroad Avenue. So we're gonna have to come, and we made the decision, instead of trying to go on the north side and on the south side, we decided to just use Grant, because Grant was actually called out by the reviewers in the last round as being a facility that they were wondering why we weren't using as a part of the plan anyway. It's funny that they read into that much detail, but we do have to come off the Creekway, probably somewhere along Railroad Avenue. We have things to work out with right of way and private ownership, but we think it's doable, and go to Grant and then utilize Grant, and at some point go back to the Creekway. We might go back at Kip King School. I know that's a can of worms and opens up a whole lot of discussion. Or we can go back into the neighborhood that's just further east of Kip King School. There's I forgot the name of the neighborhood, but there's an opening, a service area for, so we're looking at that, and we will be bringing that to the community in a better plan. What you're looking at here is just our preliminary view of it, but that's, if people really want to weigh in on that would be a helpful one to weigh in on that one down there. And then if you want to go to the next slide, Rick, it's we have some close-ups of these couple areas. So yeah, here's the Kip King School. This is what I was just talking about. The red line is across the creek is a new bridge. So we will be on both sides at this location, but to continue east, we'd have to come along. We think that's Railroad Avenue where the dotted line is. And then, yes, and then go east, and then go in at Kip King where there's another bridge already existing that we'd have to talk to the school and deal, about opening that. And if that just falls apart, we can go up to the neighborhood, see where the dotted line is, Rick, out on Grant, yeah, and then just turn in there. I prefer to use the bridge at Kip King. It's already there, and if we can work out access and public safety issues, we can address that. I think that's a better and cleaner way to go. Benefits the school too. So we will get to that. You can scroll to the next. Yeah, I don't know what this. Oh, that was just showing the street Western, right, going down to Hayward Bart. And then I think the next one, yeah, that just shows more detail, on Llewellyn, and then coming off and going to Bayfair Bart. So I think I probably, run everybody out of the meeting. That's it. I'll give you my address. My email address is WMSM, just William Mary Sam Mary at haywardrec.org. And you can just email me comments and questions, and I'll have our team look at it and get back to you. Unless Rick wants to do it a different way. And I know there are other presentations, and this is not normally where we sit and hash through things, but yeah, we are looking for input on this before we go back on the next, for the next round of funding. So I think that's it. I will answer other questions if someone has general questions or things, but I guess we're not going to get into details of, can we cross on this street versus another street?
Okay, well, Michael, thank you very much. That's good to see all the different elements of this project here. Maybe go ahead and turn to the committee members. Looks like Dan, your hand is raised. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, Michael, thank you very much. I had a question about, I don't know if we can show, I think it's page 17. I had a comment and a couple questions.
Let me see, hang on. Back there.
The area, I mean,
what was that page again?
17. Back, there you go, yeah. All right, so this area here, well, first I have a question, Michael, that I see the orange line, it says San Lorenzo Creekway and Foothill Entrance, right there, we're kind of,
yeah,
where it hits A Street, is that? And then the orange line is way down at the bottom. It's you can't see it the way the viewport's set up, but down there near the bridge, across the bridge on the bottom left. Is that the beginning of the trail, or is that where people join with another trail?
This, are you looking in the inset there?
Okay, you know where Ruby Street meets A Street?
Yeah, right.
And what's the significance of, you see how the orange line ends?
Yeah, that's the end of the San Lorenzo Creekway. This
is the end, okay.
Eastern terminus, right. It ends, dare I say it, at Ruby Meadows.
Okay.
And if the Eden Housing project goes forward, whatever project goes on there, the plan is, the thought is to have this is the terminus. So however it gets built, the point is it's in the channelized portion through up to Foothill at Lincoln Lake, right? And then from Foothill, when you cross Foothill, then you're on City Center Drive or whatever it's called. And then there's some on-street stuff. And then we cross over behind the Safeway. And that's kind of in the weeds for tonight. And
no, I understand. I just wanted to point out that, well, this area here, that parcel near A Street, I believe is under the control of the county. And so there's an opportunity there. If that's going to be a crossing, that could be a sort of a gateway into Castro Valley. And just by pushing, allowing people to get across, that parcel's unused, but it's a great asset. It's right near San Lorenzo Creek.
Yes.
And if there is a way to, not in an expensive way, but widen, in general, everywhere you're crossing, this trail crosses the roadway. If you have median refuges, there'll also be good identity points for people to use the Creekway. If they're aware that it's there, you have 18 to 20,000 people a day driving past these street crossings. And if they have nice, and so you said something about there can't be any planting or any, can there be planting in the crossings?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say yes to stuff that I'm not the one that has to maintain. So, most cities and counties, to a great extent, they kind of have gone away from meetings because they get planted. Even if you plant them, then they fall apart. No one mains, and then eventually someone comes back and they get money to go.
No, that's not as important. I was more trying to point out that having the refuge itself, if it's just pavers, but there could also be some kind of a low maintenance, but a nice gateway into Castro Valley.
Sure.
Right there. Because that space, look, don't think of A Street as like one half, but it could be more in the middle, and there could be an opening there.
Okay. I'm gonna cut you off and help. I'm gonna help you out because this is the eastern terminus, but this is actually the western terminus of, this is where that upper San Lorenzo Creekway begins. That eastern segment that is a separate project starts here. And we actually, that green space on the south side of the street, we actually kind of nicknamed Ruby Junction because it's a junction. The Foothill Trail is right around the corner from there.
It's an important space.
It's so
really important area right there.
All of your ideas,
the Japanese gardens up the hill.
All of your ideas can be on the table about what to do there because yes, we do want to connect that. And I'll be happy. Just ask me, send me an email. You can put those comments in an email, but I'll email you back and I'll send you the plan of the current upper San Lorenzo Creekway. And then this is just where it starts. So we're ahead of you, but we'll take any other input you want to add to that. And thanks for thinking through that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Bruce, go ahead.
Michael, thank you so much. Super excited about the project. A little disappointed about the this going outside of the Creekway. Unfortunately, it was real bad, sad news. And
it is.
Yeah, and then the crossings are super important as well. I used to use the Alameda Creek Trail because I didn't have to have a crossing because they all go underneath the roads. And it was a little longer than Paseo Padre. It was a little, it's an outer radius that kind of follows Paseo Padre. But I could actually, on my bicycle with my two daughters in my trailer, could get into the downtown from Ardenwood in the north in about the same time as taking Paseo Padre, but without having to stop, because so that kind of efficiency and that kind of safety is super important. So I'd like to just mention this junction here. I love Dan's ideas of making it a gateway into Castro Valley and all that greenery and stuff that's added on the other side of the street. You know, I just think that's great. It might be a great place for a protected bicycle lane, because there's no parking along there. So it would be a great place to have a protected bike lane along A Street, maybe all the way up to Trader Joe's, and then you can connect to the, you know, bike trail there. And actually A Street is going to be part of it anyway, of the second phase. So I think that would be something to look into. You know, the bridge that goes on Meekland, I was wondering if there's any way to tweak it a little bit higher than it is right now. We've, you know, kind of talked about that in the Meekland project. And then maybe with a combination of just a slightly higher bridge, whatever they can possibly do, and then go underneath with, but I think we're going to need both upper and lower crossing there, because if we can just get a little bit of a trail that goes not all the way, or maybe all the way to the bottom of the channelized thing, and then back up, and then so when it's available to use, which is a lot of the time of the year, it's dry, then it's usable, and then when it's not, it's you take the upper. I'm wondering if we can experiment or investigate that concept, that at least would be one crossing that, you know, part of the year could be utilized. Because it's super important to not have interfaces with the cars. You know, super critical, separated path. But yeah, I'm super excited, pretty disappointed about the railroad stuff. But you know what, you know, building it for this, you know, in the long term, maybe that will add a little more pressure to the railroad guys, and we get something going, like you say, in the interim, and just get it rolling.
And that's one way to look at it too. It's like build what we can now, because I think it's available to be built, and just not spend any time fighting with them over something that's just going to be a fight, and we're going to have to go back to Caltrans and redo everything anyway. And nothing precludes us, if something changes in the future, some future conditions, the same thing the county is doing with the East Bay Greenway. They're making adjustments because they know that this is almost never going to happen the way it's shown on the original plan. So the plan is to Alameda County CTC is, you know, making an adjustment to utilize the work that the County Public Works is doing on Mission and City of Hayward, those Class 4 facilities. They're kind of using them as an interim measure to replace what's not going to happen on the Greenway. I mean, yeah, on the Greenway, but they're going to have Class 4, you know, bike facilities on Mission for an extent, you know, a couple of 3 miles, whatever it is. And so, you know, you have to do that. And then if the Greenway goes ahead, and later on you can just put it in down the road, but at least you've used the other part in the meantime. The other thing I'll say about, you mentioned Meekland Crossing, we were looking to raise the bridge or make sure we could clear the bridge at Meekland. I don't know, because we're coming off, initially we were going to go under there, but the next place you go is the railroad crossing, and now that's out. So we're going to come up at Meekland and go over to Llewellyn, and not go down and come out even alongside the railroad by the school. There's no point, just kind of wasting an effort. So
right,
that's what's happening with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. My final comment is that I wish we could reinforce the connections to BART with something other than a Shero, which is basically nothing. Although I know those roads are a little bit lightly traveled, because
the guy you need to talk to is right there, Rick Young. No, just kidding. But no, we would like to too. I'd love for them to be a Class 2 or something else. Perfect world, Class 4. I just don't think that's realistic, at least not now, for us to do this application. Again, same thing. We can go reinforce, say we're doing this, and then a future, you know, ATP comes out every 2 years. And then in a future cycle, we can say, you know, we can sit down with a plan, but just to try and squeeze out something else on those streets right now just is not the best use of time or resources.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, Chonita, go ahead. You have questions or comments?
Yes, I just have, I actually have both. On the detailed creekway selections, I don't know what page that is, but it's the page with the bicyclist and the, yes, that one. Are we, we're sharing the road as a pedestrian. Are we going to be sharing the road with the cyclist, or is there going to be a lane for the cyclist, or how is that going to go?
There's lanes, it's divided. There's a
It
little
is
bit-
divided.
Yeah, it is divided.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes. Is that your only question? Benita?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, I
that
was
was
gonna
my only question.
Okay.
There are sometimes I just get tired of sharing the road with cyclists. They just drive by so fast,
Right.
and you can't enjoy your walk with headphones on because you're afraid of getting hit by bicyclists.
Well, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. So that's a good point, because I know you also represent the United Seniors of Oakland and Alameda County. And
Exactly.
so- right. And so we got a letter of support from them in the last round, and we're looking to get another letter of support from them. But we also want to get that kind of input, that kind of feedback is important. And that you guys, you're not the only one that has that concern, but it's a valid concern, especially we're talking about safe routes to school. So it is something we do need to address. So I will take that in and make sure that I communicate with you, and we'll probably present to USO at some point before we go back again. I do want that letter of support, but I want to get other input about walking and how United Seniors see it and things that they want to see. That's important to us. So senior input is going to be very big in this round. So,
It is, because they don't want to break a hip, and I see
Right.
how resentful they are in sharing sidewalk space with cyclists. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let me know when when you're going to be talking about that. I'm interested.
Okay. All right. I will reach back out to you on that for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Michael.
Sure. No problem.
David, go ahead.
Hi, Michael. Great plan. I think there's a few touch points for the proposed trail project with our bus service here at AC Transit. And I think especially with some of the shared segments, I think it'd be good to continue the conversation about how we might integrate those on-street facilities with the bus service that exists today. And then also just for places where you've got perpendicular crossings, it'd be great if we could coordinate on some bus stop locations, possibly. I know that there's been a lot of interest from a lot of players at East Bay Regional Parks, for sure, about improving connections to parkland and recreation space. And I know the county's resources are limited for just making any kind of infrastructure improvements, like all of us. So if there's any opportunity to collaborate, that'd be great. Definitely.
Okay.
Talk offline.
Okay. Is Catherine, are you taking her place, or is she still working too?
So Catherine is in a new position in our long range planning group. And then we're getting a new backfill transportation planner who will be the point of contact going forward in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
But I'll be around either way. So
okay, well then
we should definitely chat.
Yeah, let's connect, because honestly, last time we looked at some of the AC Transit involvement, just didn't get that far. We tried to reach out. I forgot who the person was. I begged someone to get a letter of support and never got it. I don't want to put AC on the spot, but that was one of the few public agencies that didn't come through with a letter of support. Not the end of the world, and sometimes letters of support, but I think meaningful engagement and dialogue we do want to have with you, especially with, since East Bay Regional Park is kind of one of our, partners, and we're working with them. So yes, that's going to be important for us to follow up with you. So if I don't reach out to you, then just send me something and I'll follow up with you.
For sure. Super appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all we have from the committee. Let me open this up to the public.
Actually, I did have one more comment. So maybe this would be one of those things I meant to mention about support from the BPAC. This could be one of those things that we could vote on, right? Like Michael had mentioned. So
this is an informational item.
Correct.
So
That's the way it was agendized, but it could have been agendized as a as a, and in the future, it could also be agendized as a action item. So that I'm just bringing that up because that's a really great idea.
All right, let me go ahead and go to the public. Let me see here.
Hello.
Tyler, go ahead.
Hi, how's it going? I just want to say thank you to Public Works. This is so needed, and it's just great to hear that there is someone that knows that how Llewellyn and Hesperian down by, Four Corners is just so, if you're a pedestrian or a bicyclist, it's just very, very dangerous. Sad to hear about the railroad connection. I just want to say I live really close, just a street over from the San Lorenzo Creekway, and I just want to voice my support. I was just wondering if in the documents, as far as proposals, could you mention how this would enhance the East Bay Greenway? Because East Bay Greenway really does connect BART so well. I'm just thinking that, this trail really makes East Bay Greenway, the East Bay Greenway work as far as bringing people from the east to connect with BART, not just on the north and south plane. I guess like my only idea was to come up at the, for the Llewellyn crossing. Sorry, I had a question. When it comes to the Llewellyn crossing, when do you go back to the Creekway at via Granada or later? And I guess kind of related to that is the clearance looks the same at 880. The freeway looks pretty low. So I'm wondering, are you going to run into the same problem with 880 as you did with the railroad? And I guess that's my comment. I just want to say thanks. This is an awesome project, and I'm ready to, take that 10% and convince them that this is beneficial to them and their health.
Yeah, we need that. Okay, so your question about, I don't know the details. I don't remember where we come back when we're on Llewellyn, where it comes back, but I can look that up and let you know, but I'll try and get that detail out at some point, or next time, one of the next meetings, I'll be ready to answer that one. So that's that. And then as far as the 880, we are coming off the Creekway, and then we are doing on-street crossings because it is so low at that point. We couldn't stay under the freeway. So we're coming off and crossing. That's at Hesperian, we're coming off and crossing there. So yeah, there's almost nothing else. All the under crossings are all pretty much east of the school. Like we can do Hazel, and we can do Grove Way, and we can do Mission Maddox. We have to come off. Yeah, it's kind of the railroad just throws a big monkey wrench in all of this, but yeah, it kind of gets chopped up after that, and it doesn't have to. But for the railroad, it would not be chopped up. We'd have a single facility.
Okay, Michael, I think we have one more comment from the public. Let me unmute.
Okay, let me also throw this out to Tyler too, or just to everybody. Just one thing, if you didn't know, a couple of weeks ago, there was an article in the Chronicle about the Bay Area Trails Collaborative. The Bay Area Trails Collaborative is a 9-county collaboration of only regionally impactful trails. So everyone can't submit a trail. It's like you have to be regionally significant within your area, and you have to be regionally significant to the whole total. And the San Lorenzo Creekway is like one of the only trails projects in our area that made it onto that list. And so if you, the Chronicle did a whole article about it on Monday, 2 weeks ago or something. I'll try and look up that date and send it out to the BPAC members, but it was covered by them. And they're going to come back, and the editors promised me they were going to come back and do a piece just on the Creekway, because it just got so, they thought they could make it part of the main article with Bay Area Trails. And they were like, no, we have to come back and do justice to this project. And so they promised that they would come back and just do the San Lorenzo Creekway, just because of the nature of what it is and what it does. So I'm just throwing that out there. And part of the sell is that, yes, we do make that connection. We can be the heart of the East Bay Greenway until it just gets built in its final configuration. But we can be the heart of what the East Bay Greenway wants to be in that area until it can, be realized on its own. So just throwing that out there. Okay, sorry, Rick.
That's okay. Roy, go ahead.
Thanks, Rick. Hey, Michael, thank you for the presentation, and it's a great project, and hopefully will be well used when it's complete. I certainly would take advantage of it. I had a couple of questions. I am wondering if any of these trails were already part of the unincorporated area biped master plan, and therefore does it move the needle on, implementing the biped master plan at all? You mentioned lights at the entrances and exits, and it looked like a lot of it though is kind of isolated and fenced in, and I'm kind of wondering, particularly in the winter, if we're looking for this to feed people to BART and things like that, is there a need for additional lighting, not only from a safety perspective of being able to see, but just generally, will people feel safe in an isolated area if there is no lighting? Wondering if you're going to put any water fountains along the way. 7 miles is a whole thing. Maybe no one except me would do the whole thing, but I certainly would go out the whole 7 miles. I'm just wondering if there's going to be any water fountains in any particular place. And the last comment, I'm just going to come back to this, what is the role of the BPAC in terms of being an advisory body for this? I understand that, yes, they can send an email and they can make a comment today, but I really think, and this is not me part of your presentation, but more for the structure of how these meetings are ran. There's a real opportunity, here to hash things out. You said we don't normally hash things out in this meeting, but in fact, that's exactly what should happen in these meetings, is you do hash it out and you do get to a design. And so I'm wondering, can particular pieces of this come back to the BPAC and be worked through versus, yes, people can send you an email, but any member of the public can send you an email. That's not the BPAC acting in any, special way of being appointed as an advisory committee. So I don't know, I just think that many of us would like to see this team be more active and involved in design, not just making, the odd comment here and there. And Rick, you mentioned when Bruce made a comment about, I think along the same lines, that this is an informational item, but actually every item on the agenda in every meeting is always an informational item. And the only items that have not been informational items are the vote on the minutes. That's the only ever action item. So it would be nice to allow the BPAC to actually have some ability to, make a decision and at least have that decision recorded in some way. But appreciate the presentation, Michael. It is a fantastic project and, very creative in linking things together. So thank you.
Okay, thank
I will
you.
can I just answer his couple of little quick things, Rick, just to get them on the table while we're here, and then we
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so one, water, no, probably not going to happen. I mean, it's not in the plan, and there's all kinds of stuff with just public works agencies across America. It's a maintenance item. It's just problematic, and then you have to get it there. So there's that. Lights, we're only looking at lights at the entrances and exits, and that's kind of a minimum. The plan, again, this is not in stone, but the thought, Roy, is that it would probably operate, CARD would end up probably operating it like as a linear park. So it's really going to be kind of like dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk. I mean, dusk to dawn. I mean, what am I saying? Dawn to dusk. We'd open and close, kind of like we do all of our parks. Even East Bay Regional Park, Iron Horse Trail, and some other ones, they don't have lights throughout them. Maybe some locations here and there, but no one's doing lights. It's a maintenance thing, and then you got to create some kind of lighting district or something. It's more of a headache. And so, public safety is, use discretion when you're using anything in the public, when you do anything. So it's like, it's not intended to have people go to BART. It's a problem, BART riders, I work the night shift. Well, this is not going to work for you then. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's just a realistic way. but we do want it to be safe. So we're looking at other safety improvements. And then I think that kind of addresses most of the stuff that you said. Oh, and the unincorporated BPAC. I don't know. I mean, the bike plan, it's on Alameda County's bike plan. It's not a priority project, but I can tell you this, I think for Alameda County, you know, the TC, I think this project we built before some of their other projects that are on their priority list. So, you know, they'll have to figure that out. I have talked to their Transportation Commission, and they're looking at, but they just put something out and we were not a priority, but you know, if we're built, then we'll become our own priority. So, okay, thanks everybody. Sorry that was long, but you know, now, you know, it's a $20 million project. And it's like, it's, you know, takes some time to go through it and to understand what it is and what's at stake. So,
Yeah. No, Michael, no, that was good. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to go through it and answer all the questions. So let me jump right into the next presentation.
Before you go, I did have my hand up. I just
Bruce, in the interest of time, I do have 3 other items I need to get to. So if you don't mind, let me go ahead and get to
I just want
this
to make
here.
a quick comment, and that comment is that this is the time to hash things out is in this meeting. So I just wanted to reinforce that.
Thank you very much. So my next presentation is about the ongoing Crow Canyon Road resurfacing and safety improvement project. For those of you who live in Castro Valley, for those of you who travel on Crow Canyon, I'm sure you've seen a lot of work that's been going on. So this presentation will give you a short update on what's been going on. Here's a quick outline of what we'll go over. We'll go over the limit and scope of work. I'm going to highlight a few of the improvements that are part of this project. At the end, I'll give you an update about the schedule. So here's a map of Crow Canyon, the major arterial connecting Castro Valley with San Ramon. And this project really covers the whole entire stretch of Crow Canyon. And let me give you some highlights of the work that we've planned. So at these triangle locations, we're going to put in a law enforcement pull-out area. This will allow CHP or the sheriff to have a safe place to enforce traffic rules. Where you see the yellow circle, we're going to be install additional speed feedback signs. A few places up in the mile marker 5, mile marker 6 area, we're going to be doing some culvert replacement. And down in this lower portion between Castro Valley Boulevard and Coldwater Drive, we're going to be doing some resurfacing work. A little bit of guardrail upgrade right in this area. And let me take you through a couple of details here. So as you can see in this picture, pavement repair is needed, right? You can see some of the distress on the pavement. And I just want to point out, repaving is not only beneficial to vehicular traffic, right? But when we repair the road, when we maintain the pavement, we're also providing better walking surface for pedestrian to cross the street, but also for bicyclists riding along the road. And of course, when we repave the road, we have an opportunity to kind of repurpose some of the area for other use. So for example, in this case, this is the existing condition. We basically have 2 traffic lanes. We're going to reduce the width of that traffic lane and put in a buffer bicycle lane. We're also taking this opportunity to upgrade the pedestrian ramp to meet ADA standard. Mention about the speed feedback signs. So we'll be installing a number of these throughout Crow Canyon to help reduce vehicular speed and provide traffic calming. This is an example of what a enforcement pull-out area would look like. And you can see it's basically a paved shoulder area to allow either a CHP officer or sheriff deputy vehicle to stay here safely and enforce the law. And in addition to doing work above ground, as you can see in this video inspection picture, some of the culvert also need to be replaced. So like I show in the general map, there are, I think, 3 locations where we'll be replacing this culvert. Quick schedule outlook. So upcoming in the next few months, we're going to be finishing up the paving work, doing striping work, installing sign, finishing up the speed feedback signs, work on the guardrail, and finish up the culvert work. Overall, this project should be completed summer 2022. And that's it from my presentation. Let me stop sharing. And I'll take questions from the committee. Let's see, Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want the rest of the committee to understand that, you know, one of our roles is to enact the bicycle ped plan. And the bike plan does call for class 4 bike lanes along here. And there are a number of ways to do that. You know, protected parking would be one way, removing parking, which is very underutilized, is another way. And then I think what the actual bike plan called for from the consultants was actually the possible diet, a lane, diet. But anyway, you know, this is an opportunity to actually implement the bike plan, because once this is paved, you know, you guys aren't going to touch it for another 20 years. And so that means we have to wait for another 20 years you know, to get this protected bike lane. And this, where they're going to put the bike lanes, that connects 2 of our middle schools. And a lot of the students travel back and forth for sports between the middle schools, mostly to Canyon. I used to do that with my daughters. And so it would have been really great to have that class 4 bike lane to travel to the school. We actually go up the backside of Canyon, you know, up that fire lane. So it's actually a really nice path once you know it's there. Right now we ride on the sidewalk, which is not really, you know, you're not really supposed to do, but we don't feel safe to ride in the bike lanes. So, and then you know, there's new fields at Creekside, so that's going to, you know, have students maybe coming from Canyon to Creekside. So it's just a missed opportunity. Yeah, and the main thing is, you know, we don't have any input into the design. It's already done. So that's also extremely disappointing. And then, you know, there's a lot of details. You guys have implemented some bike lanes in the past that could have definitely have been improved with some input. I'm thinking specifically of Lake Chabot Road, and also even what I consider to be one of your best ones, which is along Foothill. Definitely some areas that it's really nice, but there were some areas, ways to improve it. So I think just not having feedback from the bike ped committee is a real disappointment, because that's our you know, function. And then in terms of the detail, you showed a picture of an ADA ramp. And, you know, I have talked about the idea of, you know, following the toolbox. There's a toolkit in the bike ped plan that calls for double pedestrian ramps. So you have 2 different pedestrian ramps. So people know so drivers know where the pedestrian wants to cross. It shortens the distance of crossing, and it keeps it protects the pedestrian more. And that's a really big radius, you know, large turn. So it seems like that would have been a great opportunity to, you know, follow the bike plan, which calls for double ADA ramps. And then I just want to make the final comment that this is the place to do, you know, detailed looks. And so if we don't have time, you seem to be very concerned about time pressure, then we need to add time. So whether that's the frequency of meetings or the length of the meeting, that's something that's really important. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, Rick. Hey, I had a question. I think it does relate to bicycle and pedestrian indirectly with the greenhouse gas emissions. this would be probably a good opportunity for cold in place recycling, which does reduce to almost zero the amount of trucking that's involved, and it's actually works really. A lot of agencies are using that now for the pavement. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Is that a possibility on this project?
I think I don't on this particular one. It's already it's bid it out, so it's already underway.
And also with the longitudinal rumble strips, was that also a consideration on the edges? The Caltrans detail.
You're talking,
like you have on Stanley Boulevard. You have those on Stanley Boulevard that the indentations they can either be along the edges or in the middle. To sort of, it does a little bit of traffic calming.
Yeah. No, I don't have the specific details in front of me. I do believe we have some form of either rumble strip or some type of devices along, I think, center line and along the edge line to help reduce some of these roadway departure. But I don't have the exact detail in front of me. So.
And I guess just last question: is there opportunities for funding? For these, obviously, Class 4 bikeway, can cost a lot of money. Are there funding opportunities coming up with some of the infrastructure bills coming through, or anything like that could help with that?
I
know you're helping with the funding quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, when we get to that point, we'll definitely look for every funding opportunity to help pay for these projects. As you know, a lot of these funding application, you really do have to have some plan in place in order to ask for the money. So when we get to that point, I'm sure we'll be very active in that regard.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go to the public.
I actually have a comment since the rest of the committee isn't raising their hand.
Hey, Bruce, again, in the interest of time, can I get to the public? Let me get through.
So the whole point of this, so Rick, the whole point of this committee.
The whole point of this, I do want to give Roy a chance to speak. So hang on one second, Roy, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to be quick, so maybe Bruce can take the rest of the time. I think you know what I'm going to ask Rick, which is, hey, I'm sure the improvements are really good. Yeah, I'm sure they're well designed. I'm sure they're well planned. I'm sure the construction is going to go well. But what's the point? This project was presented to the Castro Valley MAC June of last year. A lot of the work is already done. I think you're intending to do restriping next week during the school holidays, the spring break for Castro Valley schools to limit the impact. Kind of interesting, nice to know about it, but again, what role does the BPAC have as an advisory body into this project? And I think the answer is none whatsoever. And I'd really just look at the list of members that are attending today. There's 8 BPAC members, 4 of them have spoken so far, 4 of them have not spoken. And I think there's 7 other members have not attended today in the BPAC. So let's hear from you. And are you happy in your role as a BPAC member in terms of what's being presented and your opportunity to act in an advisory role? Are you happy with informational items and none of your feedback ever being collected? No follow-up on it, never being presented back to you as to what happened to any of your input. If you're all happy with it, I guess stay silent. But if anybody out there shares my views, I'd certainly, encourage you to speak up. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. All right, let me see here. So I do have one more presentation to go. Bear with
Sorry,
me.
I just wanted to challenge Dan's idea that there's the expensive, the protected bike lanes are expensive because we can, Hayward has some examples where they just did it with paint. And so, so we should look at what Hayward's doing on Huntwood. They just did it with paint. And so it was very inexpensive. It was a bicycle or a parking protected. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, my last presentation. you know, it's just like in the past, periodically, I like to come to BPAC, give you an update about some of the things we're doing on the transportation funding side. So, you know, purpose is to really kind of give you an idea of some of our upcoming funding opportunity, grant that we will be submitting, and any funding that have been allocated to the county. So this is going to be fairly short to go through a couple items here. First item is we have our annual TDA Article 3 funding allocation. It's a small amount of money, $170,000. We're going to be using them to improve our pedestrian ramps. This program is actually administered by MTC, and the intent is to provide money to improve safety for bicyclists and pedestrians. About less than a month, I'll be submitting a raise grant application. This is a federal discretionary grant program, highly competitive, and our plan is to submit the Mission Boat Over project for consideration. The One Bay Area Grant, commonly known as OBAG, will be put out its third iteration. Information about call for project had just been published. We're looking at all the details, and due date for this funding request, I believe, is sometimes in May. And like Michael has mentioned, the next round of ATP, Active Transportation Grant, is, I think, just been announced. The application due date is in June 2022. And finally, I think later this year, there should be some information about the upcoming Highway Safety Improvement Program. So when that comes out, I'd be happy to come back and give a little more information. And that's it from the transportation funding side. Let me go to the committee. Cindy, go ahead. You have your hands raised. Cindy, I think you're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had my hand up from the last comment. The survey that we were asked to complete and submit to the supervisor's office, is that going to be open to the public, since we have member from the public that has a lot to say, or is that just for the BPAC committee?
So since I did not send out the survey, I cannot speak about that process. Perhaps you want to email Ashley, and maybe she can clarify that for you. Bruce, go ahead. Your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I think I sent you an email on the AARP. They have grants, I guess, for you know, to fund projects. I guess they probably want to see it mostly for older people. So I just think that's another opportunity. I think we missed the deadline for this year, but it's I assume it's an annual thing. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Roy, I'm going to unmute you. And go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Hey, I was just wondering, are you going to involve the BPAC in any way in the funding or grant applications, such as, you know, prioritizing which projects to put forward, because you said you already decided it's going to be Mission for one of them? You know, which projects should have priority, helping write or provide input any to the applications? I'm just wondering, you know, is this always going to be an informational item about what you did, or is there actually collaboration and input from the committee members here? Thanks.
Thank you. We will come to the BPAC on an as-needed basis. Let me go back to the committee. Michael, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to remind you that or let the committee know that we also applied hard crafted an application, but in conjunction with Public Works for the Upper San Lorenzo Creekway. That's why I have it on the brain already. I think it was like $3 million or 3.5 or something to do that connection from A Street up to Don Castro Reservoir. So anyway, just for the committee to be aware of that. Outside of the things on your list, there are things that you help us with and that we're working collaboratively on outside that don't always make this. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, Thank you, Michael. We got one last item here, which is the future agenda topic. So committee members, if you have any suggestion for future agenda topic, go ahead and raise your hand and I will let you give you the floor. I'll let you tell the rest of the committee about it. Bruce, go ahead.
Yes, I have a number of items. I would like to talk about the pedestrian ramps, you know, a single versus a double, and understand, you know, how you guys make a decision. It seems like we always decide for single, and I know there's definitely some opportunities where we could do some double ramps. So I would love to have that as a discussion item. I would also like to talk a little bit more about having the sharrows, how you guys implement sharrows. You know, we finally now have them centered. That happened only because they changed the MUTCD. For some reason there was, you know, you guys resisted for a long time in centering them, but now you don't have an option. But anyway, I would like to see them more frequent, especially, you know, these roads that we're not allowed to have bike lanes or any other kind of, you know, better bike infrastructure. We should have, you know, a lot more higher frequency of sharrows, maybe greenbacked, whatever it takes to make it a little more obvious that cyclists can be there. And then, you know, to go along with those, that would be the bikes may use full lane signs. I noticed, Rick, you put way more of those up now. I see them all the time. I'm so happy. You can't believe how happy but I want to see more, you know. Because a lot of people don't know that, even the police. I'd also like to see some kind of discussion on yellow lines. You know, there's research I think I've sent you guys in the past that show that the stronger the yellow line is, the less drivers like to cross the yellow line to pass. And I've experienced it myself. And so, you know, it seems like there's a default to double yellow everywhere. But there's opportunities to go with a single dashed or a zero. So I would like to, you know, have some discussion on how you guys, you know, figure that out. I know MUTCD has some, you know, guidance in there. I've read that, but there's some times where you could, you know, we should talk about that. Also would like to talk about we have a lot of, in an unincorporated area, we have a lot of sidewalks that are unimproved, that are, you know, asphalt or dirt. And you guys put together this fantastic pilot project on Stanton, where you delineated the walkway from the parking. So it was a parking line. And you put up some signs, and it was just worked really well. The police said it worked really well. And so we'd love to see that implemented in some other parts of the unincorporated area. It was a very good project. And then I would like to ask that we look at Somerset before it goes to the public. I'm really concerned about, you know, how we're going to trade off parking for cycling, as there's such hostility towards cyclists. And you guys, your job is not to be neutral. You know, I heard Daniel talk about, oh, I'm neutral, it's up to the community. You guys have a lot of directives, the climate action plan, complete streets, which is very eloquently stated, the master bike plan, Vision 2026, which now you guys are using to justify bike ped projects, and for some reason instead of the climate action plan. And so those are directives to tell you not to be neutral, and to tell you guys to that you're supposed to, you know, explain to the public why these trade-offs are a good idea. So I would like to talk about Somerset and then the whole process of, you know, parking in exchange for bike projects, because we have it on other places other than Somerset. And I think the last one is this process for speed humps. Right now, you guys, I guess it's not quite the last one, but speed humps, right now, you guys require a petition and a 67% threshold for this really important safety item for pedestrians, especially. But you don't require any of this kind of petitioning to do other safety items. So this is a safety item and not a would like to have kind of thing. And so I would like to see some discussion about changing the process for installing speed humps, because they're really valuable. And we shouldn't have to be, burdened with going to all these neighbors and knocking on their door and getting these petitions signed. And then I guess the last one is Norbridge, connecting Norbridge and Forest. There's a new development that they're putting in on the corner of Norbridge and Castro Valley Boulevard. Great opportunity to connect those two roads, but only by bicycles, not with cars, because right now it's not connected for cars, and it makes Forest a really pleasant, bike boulevard. And we worked specifically with that developer, and I think we've improved the bike situation quite a bit. On our own, we took that initiative. This never came to the BPAC. Would have been another item that would have been good to have at the BPAC. They're going to do a green all the way. They're going to do a full green bike lane, and it's going to start sweeping from Castro Valley Boulevard all the way down Norbridge, and they're adding bike parking and bike tool area and stuff like that. So anyway, those are the items.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Dan, go ahead.
On that list we just heard, one item I do think would be valuable to talk about is curb ramps. Curb ramps can be very complicated, and there's lots of styles and conditions that would be nice to cover. I imagine for agenda items, I'm sure with any committee or commission, we'll have some training coming up, and which kind of opens the door. I would like to say something about, obviously with any committee or commission, there's restrictions, and my perspective is I've presented to probably 15 or more BPACs before, and it's actually very powerful because I'm on a commission and all you can do is vote yes or no. And you're not actually allowed to, and outside of just consistency, you can't really say much to the applicant. But a BPAC, this is just my perspective. I think it's great that we can actually make comments like how we feel about something, because you're always on a commission, you're not allowed to do that. So just I want to encourage people that it's not so bad. I've actually at a BPAC, I've never seen a BPAC vote on anything before. And now I'm not saying that's just my own experience. I'm not saying that never happens, because usually if you're seeing, hopefully you're seeing a plan early, as was mentioned. You can't really vote on something that's you're seeing conceptually. I'm sure we could talk all night about this, but I just want to share my perspective that, it's not so bad our role we get to play here, because I'm usually very anxious when I go to a BPAC, because I know BPAC can say whatever they want. A commission can vote yes or no, but that's it.
Okay,
thank you,
Dan. All right, Tyler, let me unmute you. Go ahead, Tyler.
Hi, hello, Tyler Dragoni here, Ashland resident, unincorporated area resident. I didn't say that the last time. Some are, two items that come to mind is I was watching the Oakland Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and they have a standing item, and that standing item is at the beginning of the agenda, and they report out every pedestrian or bike injury that has happened since the last meeting took place. I'd like to see that as a standing item for this one. I think, any unincorporated area where there's a pedestrian or bike injury, that this committee hears about it, where it was, and the kind of rudimentary details as you would hear or have in the police blotter or whatnot. The second item, I would like, walking around the area, I noticed that pedestrians do not get, and I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but essentially a head start at crosswalks for unprotected right-hand turns. So, I'd like to see that. So, instead of the green light for a car to go straight or either make a right turn, and the pedestrian signal to cross the street happening at the same time, I think that light should stay red, and the pedestrian get a head start, essentially. I'm sure there's a leeway or whatnot, but I think we need to discuss that. I mean, just Hesperian, Meekland, Hampton, all of these streets could use that very much. And then also just like pedestrian deference as well. I noticed that when I cross streets in the Ashland, Cherryland area, I have to wait like almost an entire vehicle cycle before I get the pedestrian signal to cross. So I'm wondering, I'm sure there's a way that we can shorten that, because it just makes walking, it just makes the pedestrian flow is just a lot, hindered by those sorts of, lag times and waiting. All right, those are the two that I think are really important.
All right, thank you. And Roy, let me unmute you. And go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Rick. So a couple of suggestions. This is the unincorporated Alameda County BPAC. So it might be worth just spending a few minutes in one meeting to define where the unincorporated area is, because it can be quite confusing, in Haywood and Livermore, parts of it are in the city and parts of it are unincorporated. So maybe making sure everybody understands, where the boundaries are around the unincorporated area. I think then providing a review of the existing bike ped master plan for the unincorporated area, making sure all of the committee members have a copy of that, but also that you actually, walk them through that so they're familiar with, what is already in the plan. And then I think the last one, I think Bruce mentioned this, the upcoming, Norbridge, Strawbridge interchange, which has already been presented twice to the Castro Valley MAC, but has never come to the BPAC. And I think there's a huge opportunity there for both sidewalk and bike lane improvements down Norbridge, which has partial sidewalks and partial bike lane, and to connect that all the way from Bart back up to Castro Valley Boulevard at what's now known as Burger Island. Which gives you the opportunity to then go up Stanton or cut across Castro Valley Boulevard down, I think, is it John Drive, the one that then goes down towards San Leandro, that actually has a bike lane on both sides. So I think that there's a very good, opportunity there to join together bits of bike lanes and bits of sidewalks that already exist to make them complete. And that, in the design that was presented to the MAC the last time on that Norbridge Strawbridge thing, the actual bike lane that's proposed around the Burger Island part is not compliant with the bike ped master plan. It's again one of these situations where you're not putting in what's required in the plan. I really think that the BPAC should look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of our meeting. Sorry, running about 10, 13 minutes over. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, June 23rd. Agenda will be sent out prior to that meeting. For the record, the time now is 7:43 and this meeting is adjourned. So thank you again, everyone. Stay safe. Good night.
Thanks, Michael.